Welcome to Candid Catholic Convos, a program brought to you by the Catholic Diocese of Harrisburg. Our mission is to humanize the Church and help you to grow in your faith, love, and understanding. I'm your host, Rachel Trochet, a cradle Catholic who's only human and struggled with faith on more than one occasion. Each week, you'll hear engaging, down-to-earth interviews and actionable strategies you can implement into your life with ease to help you grow closer to God. If you're ready to open your heart and step fully into the person God created you to be, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Candid Catholic Convos. I'm so happy to have you here again with me this week, especially on this beautiful Mother's Day. Fun fact, did you know Mother's Day is the third highest selling holiday for flowers and plants? It squeaks in just behind Christmas and Hanukkah, but more people buy flowers and plants for their moms on Mother's Day than any other holiday. Approximately 1/4 of all the flowers purchased throughout the year are bought on or for Mother's Day. Did you also know that the first Mother's Day was celebrated in 1908 by Anna Jarvis when she erected a memorial to her mother, Anne Jarvis, though celebrations can be traced all the way back to the Greeks, who had celebrations in honor of Rhea, the goddess of fertility, motherhood, and generation. Woodrow Wilson signed Mother's Day into law in 1914, legitimizing the celebration as a nationwide holiday. And every year, there are approximately 152 million Mother's Day cards bought and sent. I've always admired Mother's Day, and I absolutely believe that moms deserve more than just one day where we say thank you and recognize everything they do for us. I never understood why my mom loved or kept every single handprint picture or macaroni card that we made in school, but now I totally get it. When I'm struggling, though, with motherhood, fighting the repetitiveness or thanklessness of it all, I try to remember Mary, because she became the servant of the Lord, quite literally, by serving all of baby Jesus' basic needs. She grew up with Jesus, learning as she went, just as all mothers do. And eventually, she suffered the loss of a child. But many Catholics, myself very much included, find thinking of Mary as our mother either too hard to believe or too easy to forget, especially when we're in a season of waiting. So today, I'm joined by Mel and Jess, hosts of the Simple Yes podcast, to talk about all things Mother's Day and how all of our little yeses make a really big impact. Thank you so much for coming to Candid Catholic Convos. Welcome. I'm really excited to have you on the program and talk about Mother's Day, because it's here.
Yes, it's here. Thank
happy
you for
to be
having
here.
us. I know, I feel like we're just going to talk over each other the whole time, so
Hey,
I
well,
just
that's totally
apologize
okay.
for that now.
Yep. It's a conversation. That's what we do in a conversation. So for those who maybe haven't listened to your podcast, tell me a little bit about yourselves, how you got started, and about Simple Yes.
Sure.
Go for it, Jess.
Okay, cool. So Mel and I have known each other peripherally for a while, but until we attended a retreat over the summer of last year, so July 2024. It's called Curcio Retreat. I know there's another show on Holy Family Radio called Curcio Corner if you want to learn more about it. But we just instantly connected and bonded and kept having these really wonderful conversations that were about faith and life, and it continued post-retreat, and I just felt like we kind of couldn't stop talking, and one day I just blurted out, like, we should have a podcast, and then we were both kind of like, ooh, we said yes, and then we're like,
Please forget.
Yeah, we're really going to do this. But my mom, who also works at Holy Family Radio, has had a show there for a long time, and she's kind of brought it up a few times, like, oh, you should do a show, there's younger people, younger listeners, you could reach them, and I was always like, I have nothing, nobody would listen to me? So it became this, like, really easy doorway for us to try it out. And yeah, just ever since we started back in October of last year, I feel like doors have just opened, and the Holy Spirit is like affirming to us that it's a good thing. So we just keep talking about faith and life and all the things and how you can say yes in small ways. That was really kind of the premise of it is, we kind of came out of this retreat like really on fire and feeling like motivated to go out and change the world. But life settles back in, and it's like, oh, right, I have other responsibilities and duties and things that take up my day. So how can I find those small ways and those small moments to say yes, and then hope that it's like one step at a time. So,
yeah, I love that. You're right when it's these big responsibilities that we have, we often forget because we're so focused on, oh, I have to get this done, this done, this done. Mm-hmm. But there are lots of little ways that we can say yes. Like one of the things I like to do now is like, I hate laundry with a passion.
Girl, preach it.
Never ends.
Today, my husband this morning was like, so are you going to do laundry today? And I was like, yes, I know.
It's coming. I know. I'm sorry. For me, like the washing isn't the problem. It's the folding. Like that will take 7 to 10 business days to get done.
And the putting away, forget it.
Yes. No.
Needs to transfer from washer to dryer. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. That happens to me all the time. But now I'm like, I take that moment. I'm like, okay, we have clothes on our back. We have, running water to actually do the laundry. So, like, I can say a little prayer and just be like, okay, thank you. I might not like this, but I'm glad we have it. So, just finding those little moments every day, I think that's...
Very St. Therese of you.
Yeah. Well, and those can be our moments of sacrifice of praise. Like, yes. I want my sacrifice of praise or, like, my evangelization to the world to be, like, this big, shiny thing. Yeah. And it's, like, no, it's in those quiet yeses that no one knows about.
Yeah.
That just strip you of yourself. Like laundry.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's where the saints are made. It's in the quiet, secret place,
Yeah.
So I'm preaching to me right now. Like, remember, it's a quiet, secret place. You like to be on, on the pedestal. But no, it's like in the, it's what little yeses can I say in the day-to-day? Dishes. Yeah. Mopping the floor. Mm-hmm. Finally did that this week. Just... Mm-hmm. It's hard, though.
It really is. But that's so important that it's not this big... It doesn't have to be this big, grand gesture. Right. It can be something as small as... Or as big when you have, like, lots and lots of laundry.
Yeah.
Something small like that. I love that. So, why did you want to create this space for Catholic women? Was it just born out of, like, this is something that I think other people would relate to? Or tell me why a podcast and why not like a magazine or something like that?
I mean, I think just because the conversation came really naturally to us.
Yeah.
And it felt like something that we kept coming back to some of the same sorts of topics and themes and ideas. And I very recently in my work life started a podcast just out of the blue, really. And I really do think that it was to prepare me for this other, and I still love that one. It's a lot of fun. I love the women that I work with, but I had to learn how to do everything myself because we're a small team. And so it kind of got me to the place where that idea wasn't so big and scary. It was like, well, I can do this. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. And like, this is a small thing we can do. So I think that's part of it. But also I think, there is a lack of a voice out there for women of our age that are at this point of, whether you have lived a little bit of life, like we were talking about earlier, or, you're kind of in this point, like, I don't feel like there's an opportunity every day to do this, like, grandiose big thing. I'm busy. I'm kind of juggling home life, family life, work, all those things. What are the small ways that I can make a difference? I love that there's a lot of younger influencers out there now, but sometimes their message doesn't resonate with me because I do feel like I'm older than them and I am at a different point in my life. But then you also have these really well-established, like, women authors and speakers, and I don't really resonate there either because it's like, I'm not there yet, So I think just finding that middle ground of we're just two friends who want to talk about Jesus and, like, how we can let him lead us in our lives was sort of the idea there. So maybe it was just the most natural is the short answer.
Yeah. I think that's so important because like you said earlier, I find myself in the same position where, like, there's lots of great people out there, but, like, I just can't connect somehow. Like, some of them are too young, or like you said, some of them are too, like, I love Jen Fulwiler and her book and her comedy, but she's at a place that I'm not yet. Like her kids are older. She's got this other successful career, and I'm still in the thick of it. And I think that's why I resonate with your podcast so much, is because you're also in the thick of it with me. So I think it takes a village. Yeah. It takes a village. I love that. So talking about Mother's Day and, like, how Mother's Day looks different for everybody, I recently sat down and rewatched Greta Gerwig's Little Women. Like, it's one of those books that I probably should have read when I was a kid, but didn't. And now I'm
such
like watching.
Such a good book.
It's that's what I hear. It's so good. And the way that she structured the movie is, like, a lot different from the book, from what I understand, because she makes it more like memories versus chronological. But in the movie, Meg March has this line that she says to Joe, which is, just because my dreams are different than yours doesn't mean they're unimportant. And I really related to that because, especially now, it feels like society has pitted motherhood against women. Like, you have to choose. You can either be a career woman or you can be a mother. And they treat it like this, like, threat or like an obstacle. And it means that we have to abandon everything that made us us before we became mothers. Like before I was a mom, I had this career in advertising and I was working on a screenplay and I was going to be the next Steven Spielberg. And I felt like when I had a baby that I had to give all of that up. And it was this really tragic identity crisis, which probably led to a lot of my postpartum depression. But it was this real tug of war with my soul. And I know that we're ultimately called to holiness and that holiness involves some form of sacrifice. But does that mean that we're supposed to sacrifice who we are or our dreams or our aspirations?
I mean, I'm just going to be really honest and tell you that I have not read nor seen Little Women, which I know is like a crime against humanity.
That's how I felt before I saw the movie. I was like, I probably should have read the book first, but
it's on my list. It's like all of those wonderful greats of, that I
good
like,
summer beach read.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to do it. I will commit to it. I'll read it this summer. I also say that a lot and that I don't actually do it, but I will try my best. But I relate to the heart of what you're saying in a lot of ways. And I think we've talked a lot about this idea of motherhood and how it feels a little bit sometimes like a trophy that you're working towards, but then at the same time, you lose sight of what it really means. And so for me personally, I do have a career. I did put my career first for a very long time. And then by the time I was ready to have kids, it didn't happen the way I thought it would. It took a lot longer and it took some, surgeries and things like that, and just trust that if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And so I had to make that trade-off and then wait, which was really hard because it felt like I was really just like white knuckling the wheel as far as like, I'm in control. I'm going to make the decision on how this happens and when this happens. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, you're not in control. And so, this idea of what my dream was and seeing it shift throughout my life. I mean, I went through a long time where I was like, I'm not going to be a mom. I don't want to be a mom. I'm going to have this career and I'm going to live this fabulous like life and travel. And it was just this like knock that kept getting louder and louder. And then finally I was like, I do really think that I am being called to motherhood. But then again, like once that happened, it didn't happen the way I thought. So I had to roll with it and trust. And then when it did happen, I think for me, luckily, it made it a lot easier to recognize that like I had to step back from work because I wanted it so deeply that I was able to kind of prioritize between the two. But I know that's not often the case. And I actually keep reading articles now where it's like women who have decided to not have kids or to wait till later in life and choose their career first are all like really regretting it. And I'll find that article so we can reference it so it doesn't sound like I'm just making that up. But I think that's a really important thing to step back and look at, because it does point to the fact that society told them that you can't do both and you can't hold both spaces and do it well. And I think that's a lie.
Yeah. And something so I am not a quote mother yet, biologically speaking, or even like through adoption. But it's interesting how even when I was late teens or so, I also had the whole belief that I don't want to be a mom. Not something I'm interested in. I'll never be, like, I don't want kids. Like, that will just be horrible, all this stuff. Granted, I didn't grow up around children, like little kids. Just wasn't for whatever reason. So, like, babies were a very foreign thing to me, kind of scary. Like, didn't know really how to deal with them. Now with my in-laws and their family, I'm very familiar. But
so many babies.
Yeah, so many. This year there's 5 alone.
Oh my goodness.
Brought to the world. So there's just like so many, and it's beautiful. It's wonderful. And so it's been interesting for me. I think it's been more of a journey of becoming fully integrated into who I actually am, and learning even now. I'm married, been married for 5 years. We've been struggling with infertility. The doctors don't know. All the charts look great. Don't know why it's not happening. It's like, well, okay. Clearly it's not up to me. It's, I don't have any control in this. All I can do is just hope and pray and wait in the ache and just kind of enjoy the ache. at this point.
It's quite a cross, because I've been there.
Well, and it's interesting how before I despised it, and now it's sweet. Like, now I love it. And I don't know. If you know, you know. Like,
Yes.
I can't tell you how to get there. I don't know how I even got there. But, like, now I'm just in this place of, like, it's a sweet friend. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
Not in a sense that, like, I'm going to stay here, but there's, like, a hope of, like, no, this is good. Like, it's purifying me in a way that I need to be purified. And so it's been interesting for me. It's been a journey of learning how to become selfless, and just recognizing how selfish I have been, even with, like, no, I don't want to have kids. I don't ever want to be a mom. I don't even think I'm going to get married. And then just the journey of discovering, oh no, Lord, like, because I wanted to be a nun for the longest time, but it wasn't because I necessarily wanted to be, like, the Lord's bride. It was because I was terrified of men. And so, and, like, I was running away as opposed to running towards. And so when the Lord told me, like, no, you're not called to be a nun, I was so distraught and like, what do you mean? Like, I'll be such a good one, because, like, I'll be such a good nun, you know? Please don't call me to marriage. Like, please. Now I'm like, thank God that I was called to marriage and, like, have my husband and everything. But it's interesting how it's been a journey of healing of my heart and healing of my kind of, like, female wounds of, like, rejecting my femininity in so many ways. And I'm sure all of us have bits of that just from our culture, but learning how, like, no, my femininity is so beautiful. And, like, what does it truly mean to be feminine? And that even in my empty womb every month, like, I'm still, like, super feminine. Like, that doesn't make me less so. And it's funny that a couple years, like 2 years ago or so, like, my identity was so wrapped up in my inability to have children. And it was almost as if, like, well, because this isn't happening, that means I'm not fully woman. Or, like, what does that mean? Like, Lord, you hate me because, like, you must, because I can't do the thing that women are supposed to do and, like, are created to do. And it's just been such a lesson of, like, fruitfulness isn't this one category. Like, now, if you do have children, either by adoption or biologically, like, that is beautiful. Like, it is amazing. And I don't want to detract from that beauty, because it is worthy of honor. Like, we went to my sister-in-law. They just recently had one of their babies baptized in the traditional Latin Mass rite. It was the most beautiful baptism. There's, like, a whole, like, rite for the woman coming back into the church and, like, being received back into the community after having childbirth. Like, because back in the day, you know, the moms probably wouldn't have come to Mass for a few weeks until she was, like, okay to come back. And it was just beautiful to see, like, how the church just so upholds mothers and, like, what a gift and beauty it is. I think years ago it would have totally, like, killed me and made me jealous. And now it's like, no, this is beautiful. But it's become me becoming less selfish and more selfless, and, like,
which is really motherhood.
Yeah, I think
it's like,
right.
It is. It's, you know, I think that's, sacrifice is present no matter where you fall. Whether you have decided that you don't want to have children and that's a commitment in some way that you're going to use to serve the Lord, or whatever, you feel like not called to it. And whether you are aching so deeply and it's not happening, or you have them and now it's like, oh, you're the most important person. Like, I have to put myself on the back. So I think it's just whatever part of the circle you're on, like, you have to embrace the sacrifice and you have to embrace the release of that selfishness, because otherwise it's like, you can't have both. Like, motherhood doesn't exist with being this, like, very selfish. I don't know. I just feel like that takes, like, the beauty and the joy away from it.
Well, I feel like it's love your neighbor as yourself. Like, I feel like that's the epitome of motherhood. It's like, I'm loving other as I love myself. Like, I need to love myself first. And I think, like, that whole question of, do we need to sacrifice who we are or our dreams or aspirations? Like, God bless women who do, like, drop everything and just 100% focus on their kids. But I almost feel like, and I know I don't have children, I'm sure I'll go through these same questions and things, like, when that happens one day. But I almost feel like they're missing the mark, and that they're not fully integrated. Like, Our Lady was fully integrated. she would have had dreams and, like, gifts and things that she would have done. She wouldn't have denied God's gifts just to focus only on Jesus. I'm, like, breaking this down now in, like, real time. So I'm, like, really parsed through this. But it's, like, in order to, like, I feel like being the best mother would be you being fully integrated and, like, at peace with who you truly are and, like, knowing what fills you up and, like, doing those things while also, like, loving your child, like, loving your neighbor as yourself, like, giving them that same
Well, you have to give
love.
them an example. You
Right.
have to
Yes,
show
thank
them. Yeah, I think that's what you're trying to say. And
Yeah.
it makes me think of the fact that, like, so I coach my daughter's softball, my youngest softball, I coach basketball. And, like, when I went into it, they asked this question. It was from the diocese. It's like, why do you want to coach? And I was like, I just want to, like, be an example for these girls that you can do this really fun thing, but also, like, be a good person and like just be like an apostle for them, you know? Because I think, especially when it comes to things outside of religion class at school, and if you're blessed enough to have your kids in a school that does embrace their faith, like, that's great. But, like, you still have to form them everywhere else. And whether it's your kids or somebody else's kids, like, I'm not just there for my kid. I am truly there for all these other kids that are on the team and teaching them lessons and trying to walk through these hard moments with them. So it is about this idea of, like, you have to model. As a mother, you are a model, and you have to embrace that. And without knowing who you are and how to embrace your gifts and work through hard things, like, then you're not really teaching them how to live in the world. You're just catering to them, which might make them jerks. So, like, yeah.
And, like, teaching them how to love themselves, they'll learn it from you loving yourself. Like, I just hear so much about how, like, kids regulate their emotions and their nervous systems by their moms and their dads. And it's like, if you're not regulated, how are you going to regulate them? Like, if you don't, they'll feel the anxiety of you don't love yourself. You know, I have, like, a youth group that I'm in charge of, and I've subbed in the past, have been a teacher in the past. And it's interesting just how intuitive children are. And, like, they know when an adult walks into the room and they're not, quote, safe. And I don't mean, like, a monster person, but somebody who's just in turmoil within themselves. Like, the kids pick that up. And then they start to kind of showcase that same turmoil.
They're little mirrors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing when someone walks in who's, like, so at peace with who they are themselves and, like, embrace the gifts of their own life, you know, just, like, love themselves fully as the Lord loves them, how that just totally reflects in the kids. And, like, what a gift that is, that there are good adults out there that are, like, showing children, like, no, you can love yourself too. And, like, that's actually glorifying the Lord. Like, if you love him, if you love yourself the way that he's created you to be, you know, from the beginning, like, not the way we want to, you know, whatever. But
yeah, no, I love what you said about learning how to be selfless, especially in a period of waiting, because, like you just took, like, a page out of, like, one of my diaries from 9 years ago when we were struggling with infertility of, like God must hate me. Why can't he give me what I want? Like, is this mean that I'm never supposed to be a mother? And he was just saying, like, just wait. And I feel like, even with my career now, and like, okay, I'm not Steven Spielberg, but I get to do all this stuff with my kids. Like, my kids have taught me so much stuff that I've been able to apply to my work here, to what I do at home in my spare time. So to the point that, like, my kids and I are actually going to make a little short film this summer. So I get to, like, do it with them. And that is what I always wanted. Because even growing up, like, I knew I wanted to be a mom, but I also knew that I wanted to work in a creative field. And I was like, oh, I'll just take my kids to set with me. Like, that would ever happen. But I was like, I'll just take my kids to set with me. It won't be a big deal. I can do it. I thought I could do everything. And I had a lot of growing up to do, to learn, like, again, where priorities were. And then when I became a mother, like, I did this shift from, like, why won't God give me what I want, to why isn't this what I thought it would be?
Yeah.
And
why is this so hard?
Why is this so hard?
Yeah.
And, like, I would turn to Mary a lot in my prayer of, like, well, Jesus probably, like, broke his best pair of sandals, or, like, spilled something all over what he was wearing, like, right as they're walking out the door. Like, how would she have handled this? But at the same time, I'm like, but Mary was perfect. Like, she was sinless. She probably, you know, didn't scream at him when he lost his temper. I don't know. Like, that, I would just imagine that she never lost her temper at her child. Versus me, who is very Italian and has a very short fuse. So I started looking at other saints, like Saint Zélie Martin, who had a career and then also raised Saint Therese. And then I think she had 4 or 5 other daughters who were also nuns. And I'm like, okay. And she had a career in French lace. So I was like, okay, so here's a career woman who has a big family, and she did it. So how can I, like, so I started turning more to her, and one of her quotes that she used a lot that I try to pick a quote every year that I use to, like, carry me through the year. And a couple years ago, it was hers, and it was carry on bravely. Mm-hmm. So every time I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore, I would hear that in the back of my head, just carry on bravely, because God doesn't do things by halves. He'll always give you what you need, so you just got to keep carrying on bravely. And that's kind of where I, like, lived in that stage of motherhood for a while. And now the phrase that I've adopted this year is Pope Benedict's, the world offers you comfort, but you were not made for comfort. You were made for greatness. Yeah. So now I'm using that as like, okay, I've gotten comfortable. Now it's time to push the boundaries. Now it's time to see what else I can do. So when my son was like, can we, like, make a movie this summer? I was like, oh, I see my two worlds coming together finally. And it's just it's like this fulfillment. And I think that that's what a lot of people, especially in the secular world, are missing, is that they think that Chapel Roan, for instance, like, she talks about, all of my friends who have children aren't happy.
Ugh,
and I'm like,
broke my heart.
It breaks my heart, because, like, if you want happiness, go buy a handbag. Or go buy a steak dinner.
It's not
like,
a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's not, and it's a different kind of happiness. It's fulfilling. It's a long-term happiness. Like, because I'm not happy every day, but I'm also happy every day. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and the Mary piece of it, I think for me, she has always been a model for trust. Mm. And so when I have those moments of, this is so hard.
We've unfortunately run out of time, but if you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, you can listen to us anytime on Spotify under Candid Catholic Convos, or you can download this episode from our website at hbgdiocese.org. Thank you so much for listening. Our goal at the Diocese of Harrisburg is to walk with you on your faith journey. So if this episode resonated with you in any way, the easiest way to show your appreciation is by sharing this program with your network, or by leaving a review on your listening platform. You can also support us financially by making a donation online at hbgdiocese.org/DAC and clicking the Make a Donation button. Thanks again, and we'll see you at church on Sunday.